G'day, Professor Joseph Drew. In this video, I will tell you about the number one thing we could do to improve the financial sustainability of our local governments. It's educating our communities. And I go through a number of techniques and strategies for doing so. So, why do we need to educate our communities? Well, for starters, as Aristotle would have told you, an uneducated community, a community that doesn't understand financial sustainability, that doesn't understand how much tax they're paying and where it's going and where it's spent, that doesn't understand reliance on grants, is not a true democracy, because people coming up and voting every local government election, but they'd have no understanding of the fiscal state of their council or the fiscal implications of the things they are voting for, nor the fiscal stewardship of the councillors that they're voting for. It's just worthless opinion if it's not based on any facts. So if we want strong, thriving democracies, we need a community that's educated, that understands how local government works, what local government does, and how local government pays for the things that it does. The other major reason why we need educated communities is to combat this terrible virus that's spreading throughout all tiers of our government in Australia. It's called fiscal illusion. Fiscal illusion is when citizens do not correctly perceive the cost of the government goods and services that they're demanding and consuming, and they don't understand the fiscal predicament of their government. And whilst that's the case, whilst people are labouring under fiscal illusion, they will demand more than what is financially sustainable, and they will demand inefficient quantity and quality of goods. There's a whole video on fiscal illusion, and I suggest you watch it. So how do we actually educate our communities? Well, that's one of the really big reasons why I started this YouTube channel. Now, I know a lot of councils do actually snip out parts of my videos and pop them up on their website, or use the videos in their entirety. I don't mind how you do it. Or flick a link to a resident who has asked a question about something and have me explain it to them for you. That's why that's the main reason why I do these videos. But if you're going to use it in that way, throw me a bone. Make sure you do subscribe. Give me thumbs up occasionally to let me know whether the content I am producing for you is actually helping you and is of benefit to you. Another important way of educating our community is to send proper price signals. Now, there's videos on this too. It's pricing our non-public goods and services correctly according to long-run marginal costs. So we're fully recouping the cost of production. And when people have to pay the correct price, they then know the cost of the good or service that they're consuming, and they're no longer under fiscal illusion. If they're paying the correct full price of the good or service they're consuming, it also means that we're financially sustainable. Now, some goods, such as merit goods, goods that we feel that there's some sort of intrinsic virtue in our residents consuming, we actually have a subsidy built into them. We go out of our way to put in a subsidy to make sure people consume them at efficient quantities. In those cases, we need to let people know what the subsidy is and how much it is. And I've got videos about this also. And a really good place to provide this information is on documents that people read at the point that they're making decisions. Now, what's the one document all your residents are going to read? It's your rates notice and your water and sewer bill notices. So get some information on those rates notices, much more than what's typically put, and in a nice, clear way. So, for instance, this rates notice, and I'm not criticizing it by any stretch of imagination, but it could have had two great big pie charts on there. One showing where revenue comes from, how much of the council's revenue is actually paid by rates, and how much by fees and charges, and how much by grants, etc. And another pie graph next to it showing where that money's spent. How much is spent on roads, how much is spent on community services and the like. Two nice, pretty, and big and large pie graphs on that graph. All of a sudden we're conveying an awful lot of information to our community really, really quickly, because there is a perception in the community that people's rates do cover everything. And typically, rates can be 30–40% of a council's revenue. People need to understand that we get our revenue from other sources. And then when they understand these things, when there's bad or difficult policy decisions like a FAG grant freeze, they will understand the importance of grants when you're talking to them about it. But if you're never providing them with this information, how are they supposed to know what's going on? Another example is when you pay for the entry ticket for a swimming pool. Now, why can't the ticket have written on it how much you actually paid, price paid by you, $5, and then in really big letters underneath it, subsidy paid by the taxpayers of your council, $10? Because that's usually typically what the deal is, that the subsidy is a few times dearer than the actual price paid by the person consuming the good or service. Now, if a community is aware of how much this pool actually costs, they will treat and value the good more accordingly. It's actually a quirk of human nature, but most of us value a good according to the price that we paid for it. So if we're not sending these price signals, if we're not telling people what that true value is, how much that subsidy is that's being paid, well, then they won't value the good according to what its intrinsic value actually is. But you know what? I think probably the most important way you can educate your community is to start by educating your councillors and all of your staff, ground crew, everyone. You have a group of 50, 100, couple hundred ambassadors who all live in your community. And if you were to tell them these things, tell them about fiscal illusion, get them to watch some of these videos in their staff training, tell them about price signals, tell them about where your revenue comes from and what your expenditures are and what your financial sustainability looks like. Tell your staff and councillors what the long-term financial plan is and what the financial sustainability situation of the council is and what you plan on doing about it. If you were to provide this information to your staff and your councillors, they could then go out into the community and spread the word for you. You have such a large body of potential community educators who all have skin in the game. They're residents who pay rates, but they're also employees that rely on your council being financially sustainable in order for them to have career progression and jobs and overtime and all the rest. So it makes a lot of sense to get hold of that group of people, start educating them, start playing these videos in your staff training, start giving them information in your staff meetings, and tell them that it's in their interest too, and it would be very helpful to the community and to the council if they would go out and spread the word and start talking to their friends about how local government works, so we can rectify and mitigate a fair degree of ignorance that's out there in the community, so that our communities value our local governments like they should. And don't ever pass up the opportunity to educate your community. In New South Wales and Victoria, we have rate capping. Part of the process is we have to go out and do community engagement. And what I say to people is you can look at that community engagement as a scary thing, as a thing you do to get money that you desperately need, and you can be worried about the community backlash and all the rest of it. Or you can view it far more positively. You can view it as an opportunity, a once-in-a-decade opportunity to really educate your community, to get them understanding what's happening. And you know why it's such a great opportunity? Because when you're talking about increasing rates by 25, 30%, or whatever it might be, you've got people's attention. They're suddenly listening. This is the best time ever to give them the information they need so they understand what's going on. And that provides enduring benefits for your council and your community over many decades. People will remember it. So take the opportunity. When you've got their attention, take the opportunity to educate them. So this video was actually produced in response to a question that was posed to me by a councillor this Tuesday night, just a few days ago. I often go out and talk to councillors, groups of councillors, about financial sustainability. I do it in my own time as a community service. And the question was, how can we educate our community? I hope I provided you with the answers. Look, if you can use these videos, any of these videos, to help other people, if you want to use them staff training, pop them up on your website, edit them, take little bits out of them, do so. That's why this YouTube channel was created. That's why it's under my personal brand, so you don't have to worry about copyrights or any of those sorts of things. So please do so. I only want to help. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.